Off air. We're on the air. Howdy do, buckaroos. Welcome to the Beer Whisperer Pub. Thanks for joining me today. Uh, it looks like Mr. Red Rooster just walked into the bar. Say hi to everybody, Red.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, folks.
How the hell are you? So, I heard through the grapevine, I don't know if this is true or not because I hadn't checked it out, but I've been hearing from folks that somebody is I'll be kind and say borrowed borrowed my virtual pub idea. You know anything about that, Red?
I'm not sure, Tom, about that, but I guess they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I guess you should be flattered.
I should be, huh? I just try to do myself an old-fashioned Boilermaker, but I've had so much acid reflux over the years, I can't chug like I used to, but I will finish that. I had some Hellcat Maggie that I dropped in here. I'm going to finish that first, and then I'm going to pop open a Mother's MILF. Yeah, you know what? We started doing this to kind of have a free form kind of discussion where there's not necessarily a set topic. We're just having a discussion, but where it's civilized more or less, as if we were in a pub before you got too drunk where you're shouting at each other. But now it seems like others want to steal that same idea.
Well, not just that idea, but the Honest Craft Beer Reviews admin review and discussion where
Mm-hmm.
we had a moderator, and the moderator would let everyone speak and
Uh-huh.
say, let's just let one person speak so they don't get interrupted and we're not stepping and talking all over each other. That's a format that Honest Craft Beer Reviews has
Yep.
done
You're
with
right.
John being the moderator, and you,
Mm-hmm.
the last one, you were the moderator, and we allow each admin to speak and review their beer, and then at the end we do a round table and we discuss the issues back and forth. But when you set it up that way with a moderator and you allow each person to do their review uninterrupted, and at the end everybody gets a chance to free form and speak, that's a very good formula that we came up with, and that one's being copied as well.
Yeah. Well, like you said, they say flattery's was it imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. I just think sometimes some folks just can't have an original idea.
No, people are good at copying what other people do, but they no problem. We it's all in good fun here because this is not reality, Tom. This is the virtual world. Okay, this
We
is
can't.
not this is not reality.
We're not actually a pub, but we like to think we are because this is what we'd be talking about if you and I were sitting in an actual pub together.
Right, right. I agree with it. And I think the virtual pub concept is a good one because you can drink, you can have a talk. It'd be just like you and I sitting at the bar and having one together. So, I think it's a great thing.
Well,
Plus,
let
I
me
don't
tell
have
you
to
what
drive and I don't
I'm
have to worry
drinking
about some cop pulling me over later on.
here. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all.
No, it
Let me
isn't.
tell you what I'm drinking here. This just came out. Um, Mother's MILF from Mother's Brewing Company. MILF, arguably one of the greatest beers of all time. It's an 11% 50 IBU Imperial Stout that's aged in rum, sherry, bourbon, brandy, and whiskey barrels. So it's aged in 5 different barrels. And from what I gather, what they do is they age at these barrels and then kind of blend them together.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've actually had that. You actually sent me a bottle of that along with what was the other one you sent me? You sent me another great one. It might have been the Mule Team, and
Oh, yeah, Piney River. That's their double
yeah,
IPA. Yeah.
Piney River Mule Team, the double IPA, and I was just blown away by both of them. Fantastic beers. I got to get out to Missouri sometime. I've been to Missouri actually. I've been to St. Louis. I don't think I've ever been to where you're at in the Springfield area, but I've definitely been to Missouri, and I'm long overdue for a trip.
Well, even if you're ever heading towards St. Louis, let me know, and we'll find a way to meet you there. Even if we just meet for one day and have a beer, then you can spend time with your family. But man, there are some great breweries in St. Louis I'd love to take you to.
Yeah, I'd love to go out that way again. Especially the city itself is a great city. The Gateway Arch, there's a lot to see and do. When I was in St. Louis the last time, I went to Anheuser-Busch.
Uh-huh.
And
There you
I
go.
also, went out to the horse farm and saw the Clydesdales and saw the Clydesdales at the brewery. So that's when Anheuser-Busch to me was an American brewery, which it is no longer. So, like their logo with an eagle flying away, I flew away from them.
So before I tell you about more about my MILF, my wife, my wife and I were having a conversation this evening. She says, "Am I your favorite MILF?" I said, "Now you're my second favorite." But anyway, before I give you tasting notes on this, tell me what you're drinking, my friend.
Well, I am drinking for the first time in about 12 years Guinness Extra Stout in the bottle. Now, Guinness Extra Stout for the last 12 years or so has been contract brewed for the U.S. market in Canada.
Yeah, yeah,
And while that beer had its own quality, I don't think it compared at all to the Irish one. It was kind of a shell of what this beer really is. And what makes this beer so good, I mean, this is pretty much the foundation on which all Guinness was, the foundation of all Guinness. I mean, for me, Guinness on draft at the pub is the best way of drinking Guinness. Bottled Guinness, my favorite Guinness I've ever had in the bottle was Special Export Stout, commissioned by John Martin. That one was 8% alcohol by volume. That was for the Belgian market at one point, but it's branched out and it's in a couple different markets. We can't get that here. Guinness Foreign Extra Stout was once in the Caribbean and African countries, and that one's 7.5. Now that one is in the U.S. market, but it's disappeared as of late, and that's alarming to me. But the Guinness Extra Stout has replaced it, the Irish brewed one. That's at 5% alcohol by volume, which is a little higher than the draft version, about 4.2 or 4.5. But
yeah.
this beer is excellent, and it is the definition of Irish stout, dry stout. I mean, you really, really taste the unmalted roasted barley, which is the signature of
Yes,
Guinness.
yes,
Okay, anybody wants to understand why Guinness tastes so dry and roasty? It is the unmalted roasted barley that's given it that character, that's given it that really dry, coffee-ish, almost charred flavor. And for me, that's as good as it gets for stout. So this is fantastic. So that's what I'm drinking. I'm drinking the Guinness Extra Stout in the bottle that has now been reintroduced to the U.S. market, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, I think like most beer drinkers about our age, I think we're of a similar age. My first stout was the Guinness Extra Stout, and I'm going to say 1986 because that's when I was of legal age. But it might have been before that when I first had it the first time. But that was my first stout was that Guinness Stout. And I remember a couple of us buying a 6 pack, and we gave a few away. And of the six of us that drank that beer, I was the only one that got it, that understood it, that liked it at the time. And if you can remember way back then, there wasn't a whole lot of beer options. So I just knew I had a taste for that kind of beer right away.
I did as well. I think the first time I ever had this one, and I wasn't even old enough to drink. I remember getting it from a friend of mine. His brother had, I think he stole it from his brother, whatever. But we ended up splitting like a couple bottles of it, and I want to say it was 1984, might have been 1983 actually. So I won't tell you how old I am, but let me put it this way: I was a teenager. That's for sure. But I remember drinking it. I remember it being very, very bitter, and I remember it tasting like coffee. And me at the time, of course, not being that big of a beer drinker, me drinking all the crap that I could steal from my father, I was like, ugh, what is this stuff? But I remember it to this day, and I still remember the bottle, and I remember me and this guy drinking it. So it definitely made an impression on me.
Yeah, I can remember my first Guinness too. I just thought it was such an amazing beer at the time. Now, a lot of craft beer snobs kind of hammer on Guinness. Do you think it's, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, you think they have it coming?
Well, no, I don't think Guinness does. I mean, I think, what I don't understand, and I think is absolute, well, I do understand it, but what I think is absolutely idiotic is people that seem to think large breweries, these mega breweries, these ones that have been taken over and owned by AB InBev or, South African Miller, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves these days. People seem
Yeah,
they think these large breweries can't produce world-class beers. They can, and they do. Guinness, which is owned by Diageo, which is a drinks conglomerate, is proof of that. You go to any German brewery, Paulaner, Spaten, any of these larger German breweries, they can produce. They have been producing. They make world class beer if they want to. A lot of times, the ones here in the United States don't make that world class beer because it doesn't sell. They're cheap swill sells. Now, people say, "Oh, well, Budweiser's made with the finest ingredients, and you won't find better, production and better, control over the product and." Quality control. It's, you can go anywhere in the world and Budweiser tastes the same. Well, yeah, okay, but so they're technically proficient with a lot of machines. Oh, that's fantastic, but that's a dubious accomplishment if you ask me, because yeah, any kind of processed product can taste the same anywhere. I can get Wonder Bread anywhere and it still tastes the
still
same.
tastes like Wonder Bread. Yeah,
Yeah, congratulations. It's like big fucking deal if it all tastes the same. If it
yeah.
tastes bland and boring, I mean, who cares if it tastes the same? Why am I supposed to think that's some kind of technological fucking marvel? It doesn't impress me. I'm sorry.
Well, it's like you and I were talking about Mexican food earlier. I've got a favorite Mexican food place here in town, and the one thing I love about them is it's never quite the same. I mean, it's always pretty close, but sometimes the sauce is a little hotter because it's sat all day. There's just a lot of different things that can happen because it is home cooked food. And I think it's the same thing with craft beer. I mean, the mother's milk's a little bit different from year to year, even though they're probably brewing it exactly the same way because I mean it is a craft beer. It is not a mechanical marvel.
Right, and that's what I like about the craft beer movement and what I like about microbrews and all that. I like it to be a little different. I mean, I like it that it's, the first time I've tried it, the second time it might be a little different. Sure, you want the same blueprint. You want it to be pretty much, if it's an imperial stout, it's supposed to have these stylistic parameters. If it's a Dunkelweizen, then I expect certain things. I expect certain things within style, but if it's
Yeah,
a little different each time, I don't have a problem with that. And if I do have a problem with that, guess what? I'll go get a German one, which I know is going to technically sound each and every
yeah,
time I drink it. And it's going to have flavor and it's going to have aroma and it's going to have character. Okay. Drinking a swill like Budweiser or drinking a swill like Miller High Life, yeah, okay. It's well made. It's always going to taste the same. But again, so's a piece of Wonder Bread. So's a Twinkie. Who gives a shit?
yeah. I agree. This MILF, for instance, I mean, it's brewed with, it's an imperial stout. I mentioned the barrels that's aged in, but it's also brewed with cocoa nibs and raisins. You know, in some batches, you taste the cocoa a little more. Sometimes you taste the raisins. Sometimes you taste a bourbon barrel a little more. And in this case, the one I had earlier today on tap, I tasted the rum barrel. Well, actually, at first I tasted the sherry barrel the most. Then I tasted a lot of that rum barrel. You know, it is stylistically perfect, but yeah, there should be little differences here and there.
Yeah, those little nuances is the spice of life. That's what makes things interesting. You know, it's there, but it's a little different. I enjoy that. I mean, if I want uniformity for everything, I don't know. That just seems a little plain and a little boring to me. But if you want everything in your life to be perfectly uniform and the same, yeah, okay, great, good for you, but not me.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of dig unpredictability. I like to say it's the little imperfections that make something perfect.
And it can. Some of the most spectacular beer experiences I've ever had are ones that weren't perfect.
Yep,
Uh,
I agree. Yep.
you know, John Starodomsky, the brew guru, and I will give him and I had a beer once, and we'll give you a perfect example of that. We had this beer. It was called Kessler Oktoberfest. It was brewed by a brewery called Kessler Brewing Company, and I believe they're still in business. I haven't had their beers in ages. I think they're out there in Montana or Wyoming or one of them states. Memory fails me at the moment, but they brewed an Oktoberfest, right? And the Oktoberfest stylistically wasn't that accurate. It had diacetyl in it. It was buttery, and whatever reason it was buttery, it was probably some kind of infection or some kind of mistake. But John will tell you, and I will tell you, that was one of the most delicious beers we ever tasted. It had perfect maltiness. That butteriness that was on top of it just took it over the top. Now, if we were judging this beer, we would say, oh well, stylistically, this has got some flaws in it. But it was a very, very enjoyable beer. Hedonistically, him and I loved it. So that's an example of, hey, this beer stylistically might have been a failure, but hedonistically, it was one of the most memorable beers we've had. So,
There you go. Yeah,
and we've
that's a
said this
great
before,
example.
Tom. What is it? In the end, it's beer. Either we're drinking it to enjoy it, not pick it to fucking pieces.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I personally don't give grades. I mean, I understand those that do. I don't. For me, it's just a buy again or a not buy again. I mean, I'm here to enjoy the beer. I do review, I guess, to some extent, but I don't consider myself a beer reviewer because I'm not near the same category that the brew guru is. I mean, he's amazing. For me, I tend to stay more towards the commentary because I want to talk about more of the feel. I want to talk about how the beer makes me feel more so than specific notes.
Well, the whole thing with beer reviewing, with beer blogs and beer tubers, I mean, your mileage is going to vary. I mean, um, the whole thing to me has been, dumbed down. I mean, any idiot with a video camera and a YouTube account can be a beer reviewer now. I mean, it doesn't take any experience, anything. I mean, anybody can do it. And that's a good thing in some cases, and it's a in other cases it's like people are putting out absolute garbage. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. And my opinion on that is you just have to tune those people out. I mean, I've seen some very, very good beer reviews, some very good people that know what they're talking about, and I've seen some god awful stuff. So your mileage is going to vary. Pick and choose what you like. And as we've talked about before, if you really want to get knowledgeable about beer, you need to read some beer books from some very well established beer people that have been in the beer industry, been in the whole beer writing thing for about 35, 40 years.
Well, I think the problem is, I think a lot, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I had to make this point real quick. Uh, I think a lot of younger folks, or not necessarily younger, but people newer to craft beer, let's say, regardless of age, tend to look at the BJCP as their only guide to craft beer, rather than looking at classic examples like Michael Jackson. And I think that's what frustrates me the most is whenever you have a discussion with folks like that, they pull up the BJCP book and say, oh, no, it says this here. But yeah, they forget that's a home brewer's guideline. That's not the Bible, man.
Well, the BJCP for me is a very useful tool and guide for people that want to understand beer and beer styles. Now,
Yeah.
the BJCP is really for homebrewers. It's to judge homebrewing competitions. But the beer industry has used the BJCP to have judges judge professionally. I know BJCP judges. I know
Yeah.
a BJCP certified judge at the highest level that judges at the Great American Beer Festival every year. I'm not knocking the BJCP. I like the BJCP. I think it is a very, very, very useful tool, but it's not the Bible, like you say. Just because the BJP says that this beer should fall into this category of this, and this, it's not like it's coming from the burning bush. I'm sorry. There are other
Yeah,
sources.
I
There,
agree.
yeah, there are other things that have been established that show what beer styles are. I mean, it's great here for America, and it's great. It's a great thing, but don't base everything on the BJCP.
So let me ask you a question. I'm drinking this big MILF here, and quite frankly, I'm getting a little buzz. Being honest now. So, how do you feel about whiskey barrel aged beers? Now, for me, I'm a fan of anything barrel aged. I've got a beer here that's aged in rum, sherry, bourbon, brandy, aged in everything. So, what is your opinion on these type of beers?
Well, Tom, I've given you my opinion on that in the first Beer Whisperer Pub, so you must be drunk.
Well, sometimes, you and I have been in, we've been in pubs. Sometimes you rehash the same conversation.
That's yeah, drunks repeat themselves. Yeah.
That's right. Damn it.
No, I've given you my opinion on this before, and I love barrel aged beers. I think they're fantastic, and like I said the last time, I think they add more complexity and another dimension to an already great beer style. So,
Well, I
yeah,
mostly brought it up because maybe somebody's viewing us for the first time.
yeah, I know,
Maybe
Tom.
we got a new guy. But anyway, yeah, but you're probably right. I'm feeling a little loopy at the moment.
I guess, Tom. I'm only breaking your horn. So, but no, barrel aging is great, and I like I like the bourbon barrel aging. I like whiskey barrel aging. I like rum barrel aging. I think rum barrel aging brings a lot. I think brandy barrel aging does. I think these things that they're doing with sours with wine barrels and wine barrel aging, that's fantastic as well. Yeah, barrel aging is a great thing. I think it's fantastic.
I agree. Son of a gun. So you're a whiskey drinker too. We've had this conversation as well. Uh, I personally prefer Irish and bourbon.
Just like me. Yeah.
There we
I
go. See,
like
we're on the same page. We like big imperial stouts. We like them barrel aged, and we like our bourbon.
I'm not a huge spirits drinker. I don't get me wrong. I enjoy spirits. I even enjoy a lot of cocktails, but I mostly drink beer. But when I'm in the mood for that, I do drink it. And if I'm going to drink, hard liquors, I'm gonna probably go with a few things. I'm gonna go with bourbon because I absolutely love bourbon. I'm gonna go with Irish whiskey because I can't even tell you how much Irish whiskey I've consumed over the years. That's probably one of my favorites. I like Scotch and I like rum. I like rum a lot. I've been drinking a lot of rum lately and a lot of different kinds of rums. So I'm a big rum drinker, big whiskey drinker, and I like gin too. And I like tequila. So I pretty much like it all.
Well, I had a bad tequila experience as a young man, so I don't drink that anymore. But I do have a question for you. Talking about whiskey or spirits, more to the point, aged rums are becoming very popular right now. Uh, have you tried many? Are you familiar with a lot? Like I said, I'm a bourbon Irish guy. I don't know a lot about rums, but aged rums are really becoming popular.
No, I really haven't. But what I have been doing with rums is I've been drinking a lot of the micro distilled rums. And
Yeah.
the thing about the micro distilled rums is many micro breweries or craft breweries have branched out into the spirits end of it. And, I've been drinking a lot of their type of rums. There's a brewery in Rhode Island called Coastal Extreme Brewing Company, and a little while back, probably I want to say probably at least 7, maybe even longer, 8 years ago, they opened up a rum distillery, and it's the first rum distillery in Rhode Island since I think colonial times. And they brew a rum called Thomas Two Rums, and they've branched it off until now. It's still a part of their company, but they call it the Thomas Two Rum Distillery, and they make a traditional rum with black strap molasses, comes in at
Oh,
90 proof.
really? Wow.
It is a phenomenal rum. It's about
Man,
36 bucks,
yeah,
36 bucks a
that's not
bottle,
bad.
so it's reasonable. And
That's
of
reasonable.
course,
Yeah.
they barrel age a lot of their beers in these rum barrels, so it's a fantastic rum. I think the last time we talked, I was up in New Hampshire on last year on vacation, and stumbled across a little rum distillery called Sea Hag, and I
Mhm.
bought one of their spiced rums, and I bought their blueberry rum with wild Maine blueberries. So I'm looking into more these little craft distilleries more so than going into a bigger one that ages stuff. Or I've got some rum from the Caribbean as well. But no, for me, I look just like with craft breweries. Now I'm looking for like craft distilleries, and I'm not looking for the big names. I'm looking for these little tiny craft ones, and I like that because I like supporting local businesses. I like supporting little independents. I don't want to give my money to a big conglomerate multinational corporation. Not that they're inherently evil. I don't believe that, but I'm saying I don't understand why people are such cheerleaders for these big multinational corporations. You think you would want to support these little, homegrown grassroots ones that are in your community first, and that's what I like doing.
Well, I think these guys that are supporting these big conglomerates are the same people that were going, "Hey, Goliath, that David man, I don't know what his problem is. Yeah, you're our man, Goliath. That David, I don't. He's just kind of an upstart. He's a little cocky." The same people that were going to support Goliath over David are the same guys that support these big guys. Yeah, hey, I've got two distilleries in my neck of the woods, Copper Run and Missouri Spirits, that are doing some fine stuff. Copper Run has a nice rum. Missouri Spirits has a nice young bourbon. They also they do an 80 proof corn whiskey that's tasty as well.
Sounds good. We've got lots of little distilleries popping up here in my area in Northern Virginia, and tons in the DC metro. In DC itself has got Washington DC has a couple distilleries now that I haven't gotten to. So they're popping up. I mean, there's lots of wineries. We're getting distilleries. There is tons and tons of breweries. So I cannot complain. I mean, I've got all the booze I want in the world, and I don't have to. I don't have to leave where I'm at. So
That's great, isn't it?
it's a good thing. But I like to wander. I'm kind of I've traveled quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Not not a lot lately. Having a family and everything. But when I was a younger guy, I'd bounce around quite a few places. I mean, as my kids get older, I'd like to get back into that and see a lot more of the world of the places that I've missed. So who knows? But it's great that you don't have to. I mean, everything right now is right at your doorstep. So that's a good thing.
Well, let me give you some tasting notes on this MILF before I'm too far gone. Um, the nose is actually slightly different from this bottled MILF than what I had on tap. To be honest with you, On there, I was feeling a lot of the sherry barrel. Here, I'm feeling a whole lot of cocoa up front, a lot of big chocolate, slight hints of coffee. I'm feeling that oak all the way through it because we got 5 barrels going on here. On the taste, yeah, actually, the taste is almost identical to the on tap, though. Is I'm feeling a whole lot of big cocoa. I don't feel the raisin till the very end, but it's beautiful because it helps it finish up with the herbal hops at the end. It just tightens it up and cleans it up perfectly. But that cocoa is just gorgeous. In years past, sometimes I felt some of the bourbon barrel the most. Sometimes I felt the brandy barrel. In this particular batch, I really think I'm feeling the sherry and the rum the most for some reason. And it may be because that I've gotten myself more familiar with the taste of sherry and rum over the last year that I'm really noticing the flavors more. The beer could be different this year, but it could be my palate is just picking up those flavors more than usual.
It's a very complex beer. I remember the sample, the example you sent me, and I remember sitting there and sipping on it and just enjoying it. And I slowly drank it, and it just seemed
Slowly.
it seemed to get more complex the more I drank it. Yeah, I mean, you could pick a beer like that apart when if you really got the time and you really make the effort. A lot of these beers are so complex and so delicious. So that's a great beer and that's a great brewery. And I hope someday I can actually get out there.
So are you still drinking your Guinness, or are you on to something else?
No, I still get the Guinness. I mean, I've actually opened another one and put it back in the
What,
glass.
so now that you have that, what other tasting notes would you like to add about that Guinness?
Well, again, it's the classic example of Guinness in the bottle version. I mean, for me, draft Guinness poured at a bar is the best way to ever enjoy Guinness.
Mhm.
But if you're going to drink it in the bottle, I would say FES or SES are the two best options. SES being the best of the best, but this is excellent. I mean, this is nice and dry and roasty. It actually has a lot of hop aroma as well and hop bitterness that is in there, but it's again the signature of a dry roasted stout is the unmalted roasted barley. That just makes this. It's coffee-ish. It's just fantastic.
Well, it
Great.
gives it the flavor without adding the alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are under the misconception that Guinness is because it's got so much flavor, it's got to be strong. It's not strong. Like I said, the draft Guinness that you have on draft at the bar, I want to say it's 4.2 to 4.5. It's not a strong beer. It's just loaded with flavor, and the roasted unmalted barley is the reason for that. So it's phenomenal. I love this beer. I could drink this beer all night long.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Whenever I go to a very good American version of an Irish pub, I always order a Guinness just to see if they pour it right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not to it. There is.
There is.
You actually, if you've ever been to a really good Irish pub, they do it correctly. They don't pour it all in one go. They do it in stages, and that's the proper way to drink it. And
When we were
you don't drink it warm. A lot of people have the misconception too that Guinness is consumed warm. I mean, in Ireland, it's served very cold, and they actually have on taps in Ireland and Britain. I've seen this when I was in England too. They call it Guinness cold. It's served like ultra cold. It's like freezing cold.
really
Yeah,
that
but
I
it
didn't know.
it,
Yeah.
it warms. Well, you get an imperial measure over there too. You get 20 ounces, so
Oh
it
yeah.
warms up as you drink it. But when I was in London, I was drinking cask conditioned ales, but my wife's like a Guinness. She loves Guinness too, so she's like, "Give me a Guinness." And the guy asked, do you want Guinness draft or you want Guinness cold?" And they had two different taps, and one was the cold, and
Wow, I didn't know that.
the cold was cold, and it was good though because yeah, it took her a while to finish it, and by the end of it warmed up, so it was good. So yeah, Guinness is consumed cold. It isn't consumed at cellar temperature. It's not a real ale. It's in Britain they call beers that are, that aren't, drawn from a beer engine, beer that's under pressure. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
it's great.
Guinness out of a good pub is nitrogen pushed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's great stuff. I mean, I've been to Ireland a couple times. I've had it in Dublin. I've had Guinness all over the world. So, I lived in Asia for a while when I was over in Japan, and I had it over there. I've had it in a number of different places. So, a good pint of Guinness is a very good thing.
When we were in St. Louis back in August, they have an Irish part of town called Dogtown. And there was two good Irish pubs, Pat Connolly's Tavern and Seamus McDaniel's Pub. And I went to both of them, but and Pat Connolly's was great. But I didn't order the Guinness there. I ordered the Guinness at Seamus McDaniel's, and um, I, I've had opportunities to go there before, but it's been tough to go there since we lost our son Seamus. But I felt like he wanted me to go this time, and I went in there and I just kind of absorbed the place. But I did order the Guinness. We wanted to see how she poured it, and she poured it perfect. It was a perfectly poured Guinness pint in a Guinness, a Guinness true pint glass, not a shaker pint, but it
No,
was a Guinness true pint glass.
right. And if they give you the true one, it's a 20-ounce pour, not a 14. And most bartenders in these good Irish pubs will be able to put a shamrock on top of it when they pour it.
She actually did that. Actually, yeah, she
Yeah,
did put a shamrock on it. I
I had
was
a good
impressed. She was
I had
good.
a good
In
friend
fact,
of
she was
mine.
so good that I ordered that. I had that beer, and then they had they do the blends, and it was right at the time where that Guinness Blonde came out. They do it. They call it a Dirty Blonde, where they layer it. So I tried a Dirty Blonde just to see how it tasted, but she did the same thing with that beer. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah, well, if I wanted to switch up from just drinking Guinness, I would always get a black and tan, and a black and tan is half Guinness, half Bass. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get Bass anymore. I mean, I don't think Bass is actually well. It's I think I know you can still get Bass, but it might not even be brewed in Britain anymore. I don't know who brews it, but a Bass used to, a half a black and tan used to be Guinness and Bass. A half and half was Guinness and hop, and a snake bite was Guinness and cider. So it was usually Strongbow or whatever cider they were using now. Magners is yeah, it might have been Magners too. Magners is a good Irish cider. Tom, have you ever had Magners?
I have had Magners, yeah. I'm not a big cider guy, but I've tried them all.
Yeah, I'm a big cider guy. I like cider. I don't drink it nearly as much as I'd like to because I'm always drinking beer. But cider is catching on as well, and there are some phenomenal craft ciders now too.
There
Out
is, yeah,
of,
cider
yeah.
is big, yeah. And meads are getting big. I've got a craft meadery about 45 minutes from me.
Oh yeah, there's a couple meaderies in our area too, and I got to say that I've always liked mead and I've always liked cider and I've liked Perry as well. Have you ever had Perry?
I have, yeah, yeah.
Perry is
Pear
made
cider,
with
basically a pear
pear.
cider, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pear cider. So I like all that stuff. So hey,
You forgot to mention the blacksmith earlier. The Guinness and a Smithwick's.
oh okay. I don't think I've ever had a blacksmith. When
Yeah.
Smithwick's never used to be available in the United States. I had to go to Ireland to actually drink Smithwick's. The first time I had Smithwick's was in 1994, and I had it, in the pub in Ireland, and well, in a pub in a number of pubs, but because you couldn't get Smithwick's here, it wasn't
Oh,
sold. It
wow.
wasn't sold in the United States. So I forget when they came on the U.S. market, but in the early mid '90s, Smithwick's wasn't available here, so you had to go to Ireland to get it, and it was very good. I think it's changed a lot since,
Yeah.
but when I was drinking it back in the early '90s, it was great.
Well, as we end our second session of 2016, Red, you got any final words you'd like to say?
No, not at all. I'm just gotta finish drinking this Guinness and then call it quits. And maybe if I feel like a rum, maybe I'll have a little rum as a nightcap, and then I'll hit the hay because I got to go to work tomorrow.
Oh no, that's not good. Hey, I'm off tomorrow, so
Good for you, Tom.
I might, I might have another one. But anyways, hey, I want to thank everybody that's watched us. I've had several people remark how they like this format, so I appreciate that. I want to thank Red for joining me here in the pub. This is Tom the Beer Whisperer, and we're going to say good night on our second session of 2016 at the Beer Whisperer Pub.